Do you want to be able to self-heal for nearly 40,000 with a single death coil? Do you want to seamlessly switch from a life-saving healer to a devastating DPS by simply changing your main stat from spirit to intellect? Greetings adventurers and foodies, and welcome to a Halloween special. Today we're diving straight into something truly sinister and incredibly powerful, the Vampire Lord build. I have seen many people underestimate the Vampire Lord build, but today I'm here to show you just how powerful and versatile it really is. If you ever dreamed of wielding the power of darkness to dominate enemies while keeping yourself and your allies alive, this build is for you. It combines the shadowy arts of pure shadow talents with my own unique tweaks, creating a powerful setup for both solo and group play. Get ready to sink your teeth into abilities and talents that are as powerful as they are terrifying. Get it? Sink teeth into vampires and stuff Halloween. Haha. Alright, let's unleash the Vampire Lord. Let's begin by looking at the core abilities and talents that truly defines the Vampire Lord build. These are the key spells and talents you'll need to ensure the build shines in both DPS and healing roles, but first let's start with the level 1 abilities. We are starting strong with Shadow Bolt, Arcane Intellect, Corruption and Shadow Word Pain. These are gonna be part of your main rotation, so this is just a great place to start. These abilities provide great potential for synergy rolls as you progress, and they pair well with the only ability you'll want to card from level 1, and that's of course the one and only skill, Vampire Lord. The reason we card the Vampire Lord is of course to get those early synergy rolls towards the Empiric Embrace talents, and if you want to start as a healer and not a DPS, then it's kinda mandatory as you haven't picked up a healing ability level 1, but don't fret. If you prefer starting as a DPS and have enough scrolls to rely on RNG, there's no need to card the Vampire Lord. You can leave the card slot open and simply allocate your stat to intellect and go. Now let's talk about the ability you need to even make this build function as a healer. For this build, you'll of course want to have allocated your spirit as main standard. While leveling, you'll basically just pop Vampire Lord and pump out Shadow Bolts. That's your leveling strat. While moving on, you will need Vampire Lord, Vampiric Embrace, and to boost them, of course, improved Vampiric Embrace. Then you need Shadow Bolt, which we picked up level 1, and Beacon of Shadow. The simple way to play it is basically pop your Beacon of Shadow on your tank, use Corruption, use Shadow Word Pain, and then use Shadow Bolt constantly to sustain your healing output until you acquire better abilities and talents. The more haste and damage you have, the more damage you can dish out, the better your healing performance will be. That's the simple version of Vampire Lord. Now for the optimized version that I'm going to show you how you can make. Here are the abilities you'll want to card if you haven't rolled them after using the scrolls you planned to use. So hold tight. Like Frankenstein's assembling his monster, we're about to piece together something truly powerful and sinister. Starting with our abilities. For abilities you'll want to pick up Twilight Shock, Shadow Fury, Mind Blast, Devouring Plague, Death Coil, Unholy Prayer for some AoE healing, Grasp of Darkness, Beam of Hatred, Unholy Light for some single target healing, and since your healer Purify, Anti-Spell Curse, and of course Tremor Totem. And for the talents, the list is, thankfully for my breath, a bit shorter. You want Corrupting Shadows, Pain and Suffering, Devouring, Everlasting Affliction, Pure Shadow and Shadow Crash, Agonizing Coil, and Vampiric Bond. Now there are some synergies that I want to mention here first of all. Corrupting Shadow makes it so Shadow Burn apply Corruption, Pain and Suffering does Mind Blast reset Shadow Word Pain, Devouring does whenever you apply a Warlock debuff, it resets Devouring Plague, it doesn't apply Devouring Plague, that's kinda important. And given we have Corrupting Souls, which makes Shadow Burn apply Corruption, it resets Devouring Devouring Plague. Then, of course, you have Everlasting Affliction. It basically does your Shadow Bolt reset corruption whenever you cast it. Your Shadow gives you crit chance for Shadow spells and damage for your Shadow Bolt, and Shadow Crash does so whenever you hit 10 stacks of pure Shadow, you can use Shadow Fury to fire off a projectile that'll land and dish out a ton of damage. Agonizing Coil is what's making us able to really heal up towards 40,000 with a single Death Coil. It's great, so if there's a big hit and you're like, should I heal the tank? Should I heal myself? Who am I gonna heal? Who am I gonna heal? Boop, you fire off an Agonizing Coil, it deals damage, you heal everybody in the party, and you heal yourself up instantly, making you free to start healing the other people. Vampiric Bond is basically your best friend. Vampiric Bond does so whenever you hit a person with either Unholy Light or you hit everyone with Unholy Prayer, you gain Vampiric Bond. It gives you a 10-second buff, which gives your Vampire Lord a 150% whooping buff. That's enormous, but it's enormous buff. And just to give you an idea, basically you go from healing around 6% of your shadow damage to a whooping 15%. Now remember, this is what I suggest you card if you've spent X amount of scrolls and you're like, yeah, I don't want to use more scrolls in this build, then these are what I'll suggest you prioritize. Otherwise, if you want to see the wish list, it is coming in just a bit. And if you want to roll for the build already, the build can of course already be found in the Hero Architect on Loom. Just search the Boomer Vampire Nordic Boomer Shift. Same goes for my previous build, the Frost Conductor. It is actually in the Hero Architect, so yeah, you can go find it there. First, start by buffing and placing Beacon of Shadow on your tank. In this showcase, I put it on my pet. Open with Shadow Burn or Twilight Shock to apply Corruption, providing instant damage and initial heal for pulling. Follow up by Devouring Plague and Shadow Word Pain. From there, you spam Shadow Bolt, use Mind Blast and Twilight Shock when available. At 10 stacks of pure Shadow, use Shadow Fury for Shadow Crash. Remember to use whatever trinkets, buffs you have at this point. And as mentioned earlier, please remember for AoE heavy fights, use Unholy Prayer every 10 seconds just to maintain the Vampiric Bond to boost healing with Vampire Lord. And my suggestion is you cast it after you reapplied dots via Mind Blast and Twilight Shock and Shadow Bolt. Cast a Unholy Prayer, repeat. Use Grasp of Darkness and Beam of Hatred whenever they are off cooldown for big burst of damage, combining them with trinkets and buffs to maximize their output. The DPS rotation is essentially the same, but use Death Coil to heal yourself if your health drops below 80, providing an instant 40k plus heal. Now for gear and mystic enchants. For stats you'll want to allocate Spirit when you heal and Intellect when you DPS. But in general you want generic caster gear with a mix between Intellect, Spirit, Spell Power, Haste and Hit. And yes, of course you need to be hit capped with this build as you heal by damaging your opponents. For weapons you can go with either a staff or a main hand plus offhand. For amulets and rings I strongly suggest the same as on your normal gear, so Spirit, Intellect, Spell Power and the like. But if you can, I believe one of the best options for trinkets are the Quagmire trinket and Witch's Hourglass for that sweet haste boost. Now for the mystic enchants, we are running 3 Dark Embrace, 2 Fierce Mind, 3 Wizard Shadow Bolt, 3 Lunar Guidance, 3 Improved Shadow Bolt, a Balance of Power, a Precision, and then the most important one at all for this build, the Improved Vampiric Embrace. This you really need to get. The rest can be so-so, and you can mix and match with whatever. You can also pick in a 1% shadow damage, but the Improved Vampiric Embrace is really one you need to get. And now for the big wish list, and I have to say this is one of the worst wish lists I had to make in a long time, because there were so many things that could fit in, and there are so many great abilities that I basically almost couldn't fit it in. So bear in mind, for this wish list particularly, I really want to emphasize everything in the rare sections are actually good spells to pick up, and the same goes for talents. It's just that I couldn't fit them in the epic section because they're just a tiny bit less powerful than the things in the epic sections. So yeah, really I can't emphasize enough that you really want to pick up these abilities and talents too. The only thing I'm gonna cover from the rare section is Divine Dash. Given you're in shadow form, normally you can't use holy spells, but Divine Dash is a warrior spell, so you can actually use it to move around. So pick it up as you get it. It's great healing also. Wave of Despair, Shadow Arrow, Shadow Waste Bowl, Shadow Burn, Shadow Fall, Mage Armor is what we're picking up from the epic ability section. Wave of Despair is basically a Seed of Corruption in disguise, and together with the growing corruption that I've put a little one tag in front of, they actually apply corruption to any enemy hit, and this is a great tool for AoE fights, trust me. Shadow Arrow is an extra corruption modifier that can be applied via your talent Corrupting Shadows. Shadow Waste Bolt is basically another type of Shadow Bolt, so if you want to go with Shadow Waste Bolt, you can, but they're about equal in power level, so you don't have to get it. But if you choose to go with it, you can replace it with your normal Shadow Bolt. Shadow Burn is basically a worse version of Twilight Shock, so that's about it with it. Shadow Fall is great for when you're running in a dungeon or raid or there's a big AoE pool. You pop Shadow Fall and it just hit everything and heal everyone immensely. Mage Armor to keep up your mana. Remember, you're a healer, you need mana. And for the epic section, you want to pick up things like Shadow Form and Summon Succubus, and things like Power Infusion, Arcane Power, something along those lines to really boost your other spells. So buff spells can really improve your healing done and damage done in the long run. Now I've put a little 2 in front of the Summon Succubus, and basically it's because, as you remember, the more damage you dish out, the more healing you'll do, and therefore Demonic Knowledge, Demonic Pact, and especially Master Demonologist is crucial to pick up also if you get them together with the Summon Succubus, because with the Master Demonologist you will actually get increased crit and increased damage done with shadow spells. So this is really strong for you to pick up if you get this combo. Now for the epic talents. I'm not gonna go into every little ability here. I'm gonna do that for the legendary but not for the epic section here, and please remember the rare section is also great things to pick up. But for the epic section you want Shadow Core, Mind Burn, Shadow and Flame, Shadowborn, Improved Shadow Bolt, Impending Doom, Growing Corruption, Improved Corruption, Malediction, Improved Soul Leech, Darkness, Shadow Reach, Improved Spirit Tap, and Spirit Tap. There are 2 things I want to cover in the epic section. Improved Soul Leech, Improved Spirit Tap. Those 2 combinations. The Improved Spirit Tap basically allows you to, whenever you're hit with critical strike spell, say Mind Blast or Shadow Bolt, you will get Spirit Tap for, I believe it's 15 seconds, and it helps you keep your mana regen running even while casting. Together with Mage Armor, this is gonna give you 100% of your mana regen running in the background, basically helping you to not run whenever you are in a long fight as a healer. Improved Soul Leech together with Soul Leech does so whenever you hit with Soul Leech and it starts activating, you will actually get replenishment and it will start helping you with your mana situation. Mana is key for any healer, because if you don't have mana, you can't heal. Moving on to the legendary. Of course you have the Unstable Void in the top. Unstable Void basically does so whenever you hit with Mind Blast, Shadow Fury and Shadow Burn, you get Unstable Void. Unstable Void increase crit chance of your next free destruction spell by 30%, so say Shadow Bolt or Shadow Fury for that sake. Then of course Molten Core. Molten Core is basically so whenever you're dealing damage with corruption, there's a chance that you get 1 stack of Molten Core and it boosts your Shadow Bolt spell immensely. It just increases the damage and the crit chance of it, so this is really great. Backdraft does so whenever you hit with Mind Blast, Shadow Fury, Shadow Burn, the global cooldown of your next free destruction spell is reduced by 25% and it increases the damage of Shadow Burn by 20%, so this is also one of the best things to pick up. Nightfall does so whenever you hit with corruption, you have a chance to make your Shadow Bolt be instant. Eradication does so whenever your corruption deals damage. It has a chance to increase the haste in general of all your spell casting. So this is like immensely strong for you. Just also your Shadow Bolt just go down in cast time. Fury of the Void basically increases Shadow Fury, and this can be a really strong ability to have, especially for those shadow crashes. The only thing I want to cover for crit talents this time around, about those 200% crit talents, of course you need some and you need generic crit chance, is the Shadow Power. Shadow Power basically does so whenever you shadow periodic damage, or holy, but we don't use holy, but shadow periodic damage effects have 30% chance to make your target vulnerable to magic, increasing their damage taken by a whooping %. Basically that's an 8% more multiplier for everything you do, and this is an absolute beast to pick up. Of course, if you can't pick up Shadow Power, pick up Ruin instead. Then lastly, you want Shadow Mastery, which basically gives you 6% shadow damage, like this is a no-brainer, and Shadow Weaving, which also increased shadow damage taken on your target, again a more multiplier. And lastly, if not least, remember, be hit capped. So if you haven't picked up enough hit rating on your gear, please pick up talents that give you hit rating onto your hit cap, because if you miss with a Shadow Bolt, it can mean life or death for your tank. Not if you're DPS, but if you're a healer. So yeah, pick it up. And there you have it, Adventures in Beauties, this spooky Halloween special and the Vampire Lord, fully equipped to dominate the darkness, heal your allies and dish out frightening damage. If you found this guide helpful, be sure to like the video and don't forget to subscribe for more build guides, tips and gameplay content. Let me know in the comments down below what's your favorite build to run right now on Ascension. There are so many meta builds, I really want to hear every one of you. And do you have any suggestions to make this one even better? Have you tried it, or have you made it even better already? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Remember, stay spooky, stay powerful, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy Halloween, everyone.